Okay, Ian, I think you're good to take it away.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the 1:30 paper session on life education. My name is Ian Johnson and I'm a colleague of Daniel Jordan and I will be your chair for this workshop. It is my honor to introduce our presenters. Baihua Jin from the University of Hong Kong, Mandy Chin, also from the University of Hong Kong, Wang from the National Pingtung University of Taiwan, and Ruth Cooper-Dickson with her colleagues Hannah Campen and Julia Papworth from the University of East London. Just a brief logistical note and then we can begin. Each of you will have approximately 15 minutes to give your paper, so please respect the timing of the other participants. I'd also like to let you know that the first session by Baihua Jin is pre-recorded, so we're just going to be able to sit back and relax and watch that. And now let's begin by giving a warm welcome to the first paper. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Elle and you can call me Jin Baihua. So today I'm gonna present my research and intervention based on existential positive psychology and positive psychology to enhance the fresh graduates or the young people's resilience and well-being to you. As we have all been experiencing as young people or the fresh graduates, or we have all been experienced, there are numerous challenges in our profession, in our relationship, and in maintaining the work and the life balance. So the young people are reported aimless, stressful, and depressed to a large extent due to the overwhelming challenges. So my research is to design an intervention to enhance the young people's resilience and well-being. So the first research question is how to design the intervention. And secondly, we are going to assess the effectiveness of the intervention, whether our intervention is effective in enhancing the young people's resilience and well-being. So we are going to use the quantitative measures and also the qualitative method. After the students finish the intervention sessions, they are going to be asked to fill in a qualitative evaluation sheet about their general impression, their perceived benefits of learning the intervention sessions, and their suggestions for the further topics they want to be covered in the intervention session. So their feedback will be used to improve the intervention sessions in the future. Here is the overall research design. We're gonna randomly choose 100 fresh graduates from one university and randomly put them into the experimental group and the control group. Before the intervention sessions, both students in these two groups will be assessed about their original well-being and the resilience score. And after the intervention sessions, the students of the two groups will be assessed again about their well-being and the resilience. However, the students in the experimental group will be also be asked to fill in a qualitative evaluation sheet about the intervention sessions. Like we mentioned before, to help to better improve our future intervention sessions. So overall, there will be 4 groups of comparisons between the control group and the experimental group students, and the before and after the intervention sessions. Here are the measures we're gonna use: the mental well-being scale, the Chinese version of a resilience scale, and the CASMAC measure of character. This, the validity and the reliability of these measures are proven by the empirical studies. Here's come to the topics of our intervention sessions. They're gonna totally have 20 intervention sessions. And we put them into the two categories. The first is the resilience mindset to help to enhance students' resilience, and second is the well-being cultivation to help students to cultivate to improve their well-being. In the resilience category, we cover the topics like meaning of life, belief and hope, self-transcendence, mature happiness, appreciation. Yeah, these topics are well researched in existential positive psychology. And in terms of the well-being category, we cover the topics like self-esteem, how to build a healthy, intimate relationship, compassion, and these topics are well researched in positive psychology. So we integrate both the wisdom and knowledge from positive psychology and the existential positive psychology to design our intervention sessions, use them as our theoretical framework. Here comes to the details of one of our intervention sessions, like the session 1, meaning of life, and the self-concordance goals. And here is the curriculum. First, the teacher will introduce the concept, and then it's time for students to think of the questions. And after the thinking time, the students will sharing and discuss their ideas. Later, the teacher will introduce the importance of having self-concordance goals. So overall, you can say that this class is full of different activities, and the students' interaction overall are filling the intervention sessions. It's not like the traditional lecturing way. So, and the intervention session will last about 1.5 hours, and each intervention session will be given once a week. So totally, our intervention will cover 20 weeks. After the interventions, each intervention session, the students will will need to do the homework during the week. For example, the homework this week is to do an imagine exercise, and then they will compare their thinking before and after what they've learned, and then they need to keep a journal and also write down their self-concordance goals and create a plan to achieve their goals. So overall, you can see that in our intervention sessions, it is involved as the student-centered sharing, discussion, proposing questions, reflecting, and real-life practicing activities. And the teacher will act as a facilitator to introduce, organize, and assign homework. And we put lots of emphasis on the teacher's reflection before and after the intervention sessions to improve the session quality. So overall, we are trying to create an open sharing atmosphere for students to genuinely sharing their ideas and to improve together and grow up. And we try to nurture the positive student and teacher relationship. Here comes to the last part, the suggestions for future research. We hope that the future research could come back to the longitudinal research design to examine how long the intervention effects could last, and also towards different students, the future intervention sessions, they need to adjust the intervention sessions depending on the student's feature. And also, it's better to include the informant reports like the teacher's report of student resilience and well-being and the parents' report to enhance the validity. And also, the effective teaching shall be guaranteed, and the future research should value the teacher training and it's better to build a monitoring system. Here is the overview of my research. If you have any questions or you want to discuss with me, very welcome to contact me through the email. And here is my research interest, and I am Baihua. Thank you very much for your listening.
So thank you for that sharing. And we're now ready to go on to the next participant, which would be Mandy Chan, also from the University of Hong Kong. And so over to our technical director, are you able to set that up?
Yes, I will do that right now. Okay, Mandy, you can now share your screen.
You see my screen? My
Yes.
PowerPoint? Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depends on where you are. So I'm Mandy Chan, from a PhD candidate from the University of Hong Kong, and the other two authors are my supervisors at the University of Hong Kong. Besides being a PhD student, I am also, in fact, working as an educational psychologist in Hong Kong, and I'm doing my PhD on a part-time basis. I would like to share with you some of my findings and my work of my PhD study today. So the topic is on fostering students' well-being through meaning intervention strategy. So in this presentation, I would like to talk about, first of all, the dialectic approach to well-being, and then I'll share some of the ways that I've used to foster well-being of students. And then lastly, I would briefly mention about the implications from my presentation. So about the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a worldwide pandemic, and then it affects everyone in the world. And then this is a time that brings a lot of uncertainties, and it causes a threat to the well-being of students, parents, teachers, as well as other people in the community. And so we are like in a kind of being exposed to a collective trauma. So, and to help to maintain the well-being of students, and trying to promote the positive development of students. So I'm trying to explore ways that can help students to have a sense of well-being through meaning and purpose. Okay. So however, in positive psychology, so most of the focus has been on fostering the positive qualities, such as promoting the positive emotions, focusing on human strengths and well-being. And the dark side of the positive constructs, including meaning, has not yet been fully explored. So, so in my research study, I try to see if we can have a program for students that could also tap upon on the dark side of the meaning, and also aiming at fostering the existential meaning and well-being among students, and in particularly the adolescents, Chinese adolescents in Hong Kong. And the existential meaning and well-being could be considered as developmental assets for adolescents. For the dialectic approach to well-being, it embraces the dynamic interplay between the positive and the negative antecedents, processes, and outcomes. And the dialectic approach to well-being provides a more holistic approach of viewing human furnishing and fostering meaning with a dialectic approach could also lead to the development of the whole person development and holistic development of students. And the school context is a place and a context for providing preventive interventions. In the pandemic, to help students to thrive and to heal from the collective trauma of the pandemic. So I'm proposing that through the preventive intervention approach, by helping the students to develop a sense of meaning and purpose in the face of the pandemic, would help them make meaningful sense out of both the positive and negative life experiences. So, and then it also helps students prepare for the future challenges and obstacles in their development and prevent them from developing a negative mindset and worldviews, and also prevent the development of the mental health problems of the students. And hopefully through meaning intervention, students could be helped to live up with their potential and make positive contributions to the community and to the society. However, the journey for searching for meaning may not always be necessarily a positive and pleasant one. This process may trigger emotions, thoughts, and behaviors that may call for the attention from the adolescents and the students. It may bring about discomfort and distress, and obstacles and challenging experience may come along the way. However, if the students are given support in developing and cultivating a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning, hopefully the transformation experience would help them to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. And yeah, for the existential meaning, it is a concept that is socially constructed in social cultural context. It is not only a personal construct, but it is somehow relational, okay? And therefore, because of the nature of the existential meaning as being a socially constructed concepts, so I hope that through helping the students and adolescents to make sense of their personal stories in a safe environment, in a classroom context, or in group settings, their experiences could be corrected and re-established. And then they can generate new meaning that signifies growth and give new meaning to unpleasant life experiences. So here are some of the examples that I've used to cultivate meaning in a student group. And this is a kind of a pilot tryout. And then the participants are all gifted learners. So in the next step, I would try to extend my intervention to the other students, including the general student population. So some of the activities I use is through self-reflective exercises, and I provide guiding questions to the students and to help them to identify their character strengths, their interests, their values, work styles, and weaknesses and areas for improvement. So basing on their self-reflection, students are guided to develop some positive goals for themselves, and then try to set some action plan to achieve their goals. that could bring a sense of meaning for them. And then some other activities involve the enhancing the interpersonal competence of the students. So, for example, students are given the time to write forgiveness letters and to practice forgiveness with some case studies and some personal sharing. And hopefully through this activity, they could learn how to develop meaningful relationship and positive relationship with others. And some other activities include communication exercises, case studies to help to enhance the students' empathy and to learn how to show respect to others. And in this students group, I also try to foster meaning through tapping on the discussion on how to face with failures and adversity in life. So I used films, clips, and then showing the having a discussion on how the characters in the films live with adversity. And then I also use mindfulness activities to foster self-compassion and try to help students not to be self-critical, but to accept one's limitation. And then, these are some of the activities that I have used. And okay. And here I would like also to share about the findings from a pilot parent survey. And it is a very small scale pilot survey. Only 10 parents were involved. This is a convenient sample. And then I tried to examine the well-being of the parents in the pandemic. So these are some of the measures that I've used, including the variables such as positive parenting, parents' failure mindset, growth mindset, parental autonomy support, and happiness, psychological needs, and the parents' efficacy and satisfaction in parenting. So I just want to explore, so what are the factors that may possibly affect the parental well-being? And so basing on this very small scale sample, and I use non-parametric tests to measure the relationship between the variables. And I find that the parents' report of failure as being something which is not positive. If the parents are having that kind of mindset, then the report of the failure is debilitating mindset is negatively correlated to the psychological needs for autonomy for parents. And then the parents' report of the level of growth mindset of intelligence is found to be positively associated with the parenting satisfaction. And then I also find that the parents' report of the level of the autonomy support to their children is positively related to their levels of need satisfaction of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And it is also related to the self-reported level of happiness among the parents in this pilot study. So basing on the pilot study, on the parent survey, I find that maybe ways to promote the parental well-being is also important to help them, to empower them to have the ability to provide support and emotional support and foster meaning and well-being with their children. So here are some of the instructional practices for fostering meaning and purpose of gifted learners. So yes, for example, service learning and experiential learning and community project, and allowing the gifted learners to work on real life problems and try to provide a context for them to creatively make use of their ability to make contribution to the society. And then some other strategies such as mentorship, journal and essay writing, and personal statement of the loss of life, and then also making use of films and video clips. So I think I would try to incorporate what worked and what is working, and basing on the evidence-based practices that could help to foster the meaning among the students, especially the gifted learners, because the gifted learners, they have more mature social and emotional development and moral development, and then trying to help them to make sense of their experiences and make good use of their potential and make contribution to the society. And by the way, I'm working in a work environment that provides support for gifted learners. So I'm trying to explore ways to help gifted learners to develop a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Okay. And then lastly, about the implication. First of all, I think teachers should be given training and support and help them to be role models for the students. And it's also important to foster the teachers' well-being, and then to learn how, to reflect on their own meaning at work, and then so that they could know how to provide support for their students and to help to foster the sense of meaning among the students. And then for parents, maybe good to help the parents to learn what well-being is about, and to learn about the importance of fostering meaning and purpose among their children. And then another task that may be important is to promote the parental well-being, and then so that they could know how to they benefit from the having a sense of purpose, and then they're having good well-being of themselves, and so that they can support their children. So by creating a more facilitative environment that fosters well-being, it can help to cultivate the sense of meaning and purpose in students. And then lastly, I would like to end with a slide which is proposed by a scholar, and then about the whether it is a good thing to have a dichotomous positive and negative psychological states and processes. And in fact, in reality, the reality consists of both positive and negative sides. Positives can be negative and negatives can be positive. It depends on the situation and the circumstances and the context. So it calls for an integration of the positive and negative components to advance the field of the science of human furnishing. Okay. And that's all from my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I like the way that you're integrating positive and negative, and also personal meaning and social meaning. And we will now transition to Lang Wang from the National Pingtung University of Taiwan. And over to you, moderator, to take care of the technical aspects of the switchover. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Could I share with my material? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just waiting.
Yeah. So could you see my screen?
You have to put it up, but your screen sharing is enabled.
Okay. So is it okay now?
We see a black screen. Try turning off screen share and turning it back on.
So what should I do now? Sorry.
Try stopping the screen share.
Yeah.
And then starting it again. So first stop your screen share.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Not yet. Choose the first one. It's okay?
Yes, now we're good.
It's okay now?
Yeah.
So could you hear my slides?
I
Did
can hear you. We can see and hear you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Sorry for some mistake for the technique. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Iris Huilang Wang from National Pingtung University. And I think actually this is a working paper still developing. And my background is more on the sociology of education, not in psychology. But actually because my concern is how to help the educational leader in a lot of school, and also in because there's a lot of staff and also the teachers, they work with me. Okay. So my background and concern is I used to be a primary and a secondary school teacher and educator for more than 25 years. So I think this kind of experience forced me to see what's the reality in a lot of administration and also the teaching. So I used to be the director of the education department at the local government for more than 3 years. Work with many education administrators, principals, and teachers. And I think I learned a lot from the president of the education. And also I learned a lot from their pressure and the stress for everyday life. I used to practice meditation for a few years and really benefit from the mindfulness training. So at the moment, I'm still receiving a mindfulness teacher training course and try to maybe integrate with my academic research and also my teaching work now. So the concern for this article or for my career now is to develop a mindfulness training program for educational leaders and to promote the positive self-concept and the spiritual nourishment. Here is the Taiwan, and Pingtung University actually is local on the south part of Taiwan. And compare with the big city in other area, actually the remote area, the school teachers or the administration, actually they are more hardworking and have to respond with a lot of difficulties. So normally, as my observation, the pressure and the stress for the educational leaders, they got a lot of problems and challenges. For example, is declining birth rate and lower enrollment, particularly in remote rural areas. And with a lot of problem with budgets cut, less power, but more responsibility for school manager and education innovation. They have very long day, long time working and high pressure, and also the body and the mental sufferings. So even on the period of the COVID-19, actually with a lot of technology support and students have to learn at home. So at the moment, I think during these 2 years, education leaders, actually they have suffering a lot of pressure and stress, more than ordinary time. So why mindfulness is necessary for educational leaders. I think according some scholars and also some developing other countries, actually we have seen some point. The first one is the stress levels of educational leaders apparent in the literature. So I think from a lot of survey or restarted, actually we can see this kind of stress level is higher and higher. And second one is the literature of the mindfulness led parent present information about stress relief is really useful. And I think it's not just from the literature, but also for myself, because I used to service in a local government, and it's really a hardworking and long-time working. So I think mindfulness training is really useful for that to reduce the stress. And the development of using construction of mindfulness review for their ability to leadership strengths, and also some the ways their study relieve some emotional intelligence and social intelligence and regional leadership, and also a lot of funding from supporting to support the mindfulness training is useful for this kind of hardworking people. So mindfulness open up a more spatial way of living and working, may help educational leaders stay grounded, maintain perspective, and communicate more effectively, and also reduce the stress. So I think actually the people in modern life, actually the social life is so changing rapidly, and a lot of challenge and problem we have to face. So every time or every day, we have to re-breath and to just keep it calm in your mind. So anxiety and stress, and I think the picture just like a lot of educational leaders, they just like the major of the fire. Actually, they burn themselves, but they try to protect their children. So how can they do that? So I think how to refresh and how to keep themselves every day through the rebreath and through the mindfulness to concern by themselves, to do some self-compassion. Actually, it's really important to go back for their real self, and also they can check off their burden for every day. Otherwise, they will have a lot of not just anxiety for the mental disease, but also for the suffering for some body and also disease. So the leadership actions related to mindfulness is actually for the school leader or for the administration. Actually, they have a lot of work to do at the moment. They have to creating a vision awareness, and they have to building culture, community, influencing and getting buy-in a lot of ideas, and modeling the change, reculturing the organization and building a collaboration. And also they have to building capability within the organization, developing common goals, and resolving problems, conflict. And also they have to evaluating performance, encourage transformation, and recognize others, and inspire others, and serving others. So a lot of, I think, good target, and also the very important task is for educational leaders. But how could we help them to all reach this? And also, I think they need some balance, because it's a lot of good target, and also a lot of important target for them to complete. So how can they do that? So I think in this program, actually we try to help them maybe try to calm down and try to take some experience for mindfulness. And also we will try to have support them to how can they do that? So compare with the some task or the target for the educational leaders. Actually, some key ideas from mindfulness could be very helpful. For example, the awareness, compassion, self-compassion, and non-reactivity, non-judgment, listening, patient, and letting go, and also equanimity, trust, being fully present, and inspiring others, serving others. Beginners use the beginner's mind and acceptance. Because I used to be the consultant for the local schools, and I think that's a lot of complaint from the leaders, because always they have some responsibility, and also a requirement from the government. But actually, they also have some complaint from parents, from teachers. So there's a lot of complaints happened between educational leaders and also their working press. So how could they have this kind of habitus and also have an open-minded to receive a lot of complaint and also the people with different point of view in their daily life? Actually, an open-minded and also the very deep awareness for people and also for themselves actually is really important. So I think Dr. Wang, yesterday in Dr. Wang's workshop, actually he has shown this kind of dimension of self, because I think he tried to say people with a lot of different dimension of self. When we're talking about actually we are doing some experiencing every day, every moment, but this kind of self maybe have different kind of dimension. From this kind of, actually, we have an unconscious self inside our mind. So a lot of study or speech for these 2 days, actually, I think this kind of, for the dark side or for unknown self, actually is already there. But actually, we are going to maybe habitual self every day, and we try to observe ourselves. And also in everyday life, we are executive self. We do a lot of things, and we do a lot of decision making. And but how about the narrative self and the spiritual self? So the meaning making and also a lot of transcendence actually is a spiritual self. So maybe people will always try to narrow the mindfulness, maybe just the observing self. But I think when we're talking about observing, actually mindfulness not just limiting observation, because I think observation have different kind of labels. So maybe from the very beginning, you will see have some eyes for what have you done every day, and what's your habit for yourself. So actually, we will see the observation at the very beginning, the self-observation and self-reflection. But actually, from the mindfulness training, the observation could be upgraded and more deeply. So I think this kind of observation actually could be compassed in different kind of different dimension of the self. So I think from the practice of meditation and also from some self-observation from time to time, actually this kind of different dimension of self, particularly for the unconscious self, could be observed and understand from day to day. So this framework is really useful. But also, I think self, not just psychology, it also influenced by the sociology and also culture and also the narrative. Just like Foucault say, actually every self actually is influenced by the narration and also the discourse. So I think self is a really key idea for we to understand when we're talking about the mindfulness training, actually what kind of change for self and what kind of self has been changed and retrench again and again during the process, I think is really important exploration. So the mindfulness self, according to some scholar from China, I think they try to put a new key, the keyword. The mindful self is mean not just observation, but is a self-view is promoted by the mindfulness enlightened. So the mindful self is conceptualized as a mindfulness enlightened self-view and attitude developed by internalizing and integrating the essence of the Buddha's psychology into one's self system. So actually, the mindful self is not just something, but I think it's a process for people when you're doing some meditation practice or mindful training. Actually, you will grow up, try to develop your self-reflection and also self-observation and also a lot of self-reintegration again and again. So actually it's more on a process. So the mindful self will be an important intermediate between mindfulness intervention and the mental health problems and an important moderator in promote well-being. So I think for me to understand this kind of change of the self is really important for my research. Okay, so briefly, I don't do a lot of detail for this program because it's still developing. So the mindfulness training program for education leaders in my university, actually we were supported by the expert professor and the teachers from NBTU and outside university, and also from international. And still, we are still on a design. The course we will try to provide maybe is 1 day or 3 days workshop, or even longer is 8 weeks training course. So actually, I think at the moment we try to say actually it's a developing program for local educational leaders. But in my experience, if we do some mindfulness training program for the school leaders, actually they are not just need some support from the from psyche, but also they need some support from maybe administration. So we will try to connect it with the consultant's advice for problem solving for the school leadership.
Thank you. So are you ready to wrap up now? It's about your time is approximately ending now.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being a living example of leadership, mindfulness in action. So thank you. And now we can transition across to the presentation by Ruth Cooper-Dickson and her colleagues Hannah Campan and Julia Papworth from the University of East London.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my slides. If you could allow me, moderator, just to open.
Yes, give me a second.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. It's all right.
All right, you should be able to do so now.
I can, bear with me, open up. Okay. Wonderful. Can you see that okay?
Yes, and we can hear you too.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'll get started then. Thank you to my colleagues before. My name's Ruth Cooper-Dickson. I'm obviously here on my own today, but my two supervisors from the University of East London, Dr. Hannah Campman and Julia Papworth, were part of this research, which was conducted back in 2019. And I'm a positive psychology practitioner. I completed the MAP-CP program and graduated from UEL at the end of 2019. I'm also on the faculty with Dr. Cameron in her module as Perspectives of Wellbeing, and I'm a trauma-informed coach, and I'm accredited with the EMCC. And this was really of interest to me in terms of my research, which I'll explain as I'll go through how I kind of ended up with this. The title of the paper, which is currently in its second round of peer review, so hopefully will be published very shortly, is exploring the experiences of coaches working on the edge, trauma, post-traumatic growth, and coaching. So as we know, the background and aims of the research, we know that coaching has traditionally been seen as a way to facilitate peak performance and well-being in individuals. Workplace coaching came into its fore in the 20th century. And if you have ever looked at any of the coaching psychology literature and research that was very much pioneered by Anthony Grant, the late Anthony Grant at the University of Sydney, but he talks about with Spence how coaching is really the attainment of professional or personal goals and outcomes. And when we think about coaching, we often see it as that more positive focus of moving forward. It's often been seen the demarcation between coaching and counselling or other kind of psychotherapeutic interventions has been coaching is very forward thinking, very positive, and counselling and therapy is always about looking and being in the past, which we kind of know now from research that's not necessarily the case. And I think a lot of my work was drawn from Dr. Stephen Joseph, and Spence and Joseph talk about that quite often in difficult times, individuals will seek coaching that when they feel blocked and when they feel stuck. And that is definitely true of my own experience of being a coaching professional and coaching across lots of different backgrounds, different environments, both within the corporate sector and within the sort of the third sector and charitable sector as well. So it's slowly been recognized that many clients are entering the coaching realm. Clients are going to their coach. They may be going through, as well as kind of seeking a well-being goal or a performance-related goal for example, their work, their career, their profession, but they might be experiencing highly challenging life situations, even traumas. And I guess when I wrote this research back in 2019, conducted the research, the pandemic hadn't happened yet. I think this is really testament to what people have been experiencing in their own world of trauma, that when we talk about trauma, it's often thought of as those big seismic life events. And now we've collectively all been through one. I think there's not many people that COVID-19 wouldn't have touched in some way. But trauma is really, when we look at Janif Bullmann's shattered assumptions theory, we're talking about anything that has that impact to shatter that person's beliefs, their meaning, their interpretation of the world around them. And Calhoun and Tedeschi, who've done, they pioneered a lot of this work in the post-traumatic growth space, talk about it's that seismic impact. And so therefore coaches, whichever background or whichever discipline or sector that a coach might work in, they might find themselves working with individuals who are trying to navigate life after traumatic incidences. And as I said, that could be a case of bullying at work. It could be a relationship breakdown. It could be a redundancy, a bereavement, or just really experiencing languishing based on the current climate we're in right now. So the aim of the research back in 2019 was to really explore the experiences of the coaches. So this was taken from the coach's perspective, who identified as having worked with individuals who are navigating personal trauma, and how, if at all, the coaching has facilitated that positive transformation in their clients. When we spoke about post-traumatic growth and positive transformation, we were using the definition by Tedeschi and Calhoun. So the changes in the perception of self, change in relationship with others, change in philosophy of life, and a deeper appreciation for life. So whether that be a new direction opportunities, a new purpose, new priorities. So not necessarily across all of those, but they will have perhaps experienced that. And the actual title, Working on the Edge, came from one of the interviewees, one of the coaches, because they talked about this boundaries around working on the edge, very much of their comfort zone. So the method of the study, we used a qualitative design using a reflective thematic analysis approach. There was 10 coaching practitioners who were interviewed, and they all ranged in experience. So some were very newly qualified at sort of 9-12 months, and some had been practicing for 15, 20 years, some of them. So there was a real breadth of experience and knowledge and background that came through in those semi-structured interviews. And from the data, there was 492 codes were found in that data. If you've seen Braun and Clark's recent paper on reflexive thematic analysis, they talk about the kind of the themes are scattered diamonds in kind of that data. So through that creative process of TA, 3 overarching themes were identified that came out of those interviews and all that interview data. So we looked at the complexities of life, ethics and safeguarding was a key one, and the transformation of the client. So linking back into that outcome of positive transformation and post-traumatic growth. This is a breakdown of the key results, so the 3 overarching themes and the sub-themes as well. I'm not going to go into all of these in detail, otherwise I probably would be here for a good hour. So I will just kind of give you the headlines, but the complexities of life, so understanding trauma as an umbrella term, it's not just natural disasters or perhaps being in a war zone or in a very traumatic environment. As I said, trauma can come in many different shapes and forms, and we're talking about the shattered assumptions theory. The coach's way of being, that coaching relationship, was really important, and maintaining self-care as a coaching professional as well, what that looked and felt like, what was best practice and good practice. Ethics and safeguarding covered those boundaries when dealing with trauma, and that's very much where the title comes from, of Working on the Edge. But the ability to create those spaces for a deeper relationship was really, really important. And coupled with that came a language of confidentiality. So there was very much that contractual agreement. There was lots of contractual conversations and ethics as scaffolding as well through that interview data. And finally, the transformation of the client, very much linking into why I'm presenting today, is that the fact that from the coaching experience, the client was leaving or talking about and sharing and providing evidence to their coach of being able to move forward, whatever that looked like for them. The fact there was a real power of coaching as a catalyst, a real catalyst for a change in that individual to grow and to move forwards, and to be able to reauthor and to storytell their own experience, and to be able to talk about that and share that, and again move forwards with that. So from this great research, the data, the kind of the themes that were coming through, what we found was that very much that the themes illuminated this real high prevalence of trauma within coaching clients, and as well as how this coaching relationship can potentially facilitate that process and the outcomes of growth in clients. So it's both seen as a process and also as an outcome. So some key implications for the research and the practice is that coaching practitioners are not automatically trained as qualified mental health professionals. This was very much part of the empirical research literature review around the fact that there's not perhaps the governance and the support often for coaching professionals if they don't necessarily are part of one of the governing bodies, or they don't, they're not registered, for example, with the EMCC, have a membership there, or the ICF or the ACC. So there is a real worry that people could be practicing, coaches could be practicing and not have that kind of knowledge to be able to support or to indeed signpost or to even recognize any of those triggers or signs and symptoms when they might be talking to somebody. So there's a real urgent requirement there to recognize the need for safeguarding, but not just for the coachee, but also for the coach as well, because that was very clear from the research data that coaches often felt very overwhelmed and their own self-care could be put at risk if they were not careful. And we suggested a preliminary framework for starting the conversation around providing a standard professional ethical guidelines approach, looking at trauma-informed training and support for coaches. And, that's the point there. And I think that was very much some of the conversations that we've had around in my social enterprise. I have two programs, one that I do with coaching women who are in thrivership mode of experiencing domestic violence. And I was talking when Todd Kashdan was presenting his keynote earlier on today in the conference, and he shared something that he was doing with some research with people who've experienced rape and sexual assault. And it was very much of this idea around growth from experiencing those traumatic experiences. And I think coaching has a real power. I think this is what the research has demonstrated, that coaching has this real power for change, but also the fact that that could be very dangerous in some cases, and the fact that we need to recognize where coaching practitioners may not have that necessary governance, or they might not be trained in the right way, where they can access at least some trauma-informed training and support, and to make sure that they are undergoing relevant supervision, they have their own peer support, and they're able to kind of support their coach
Sing
in
me
that
a
safe
sad
space
song
that was
over
mentioned
and
in the research.
over. Tell me it's all right to cry. My heart is broken in 100 pieces. Can't stop the tears inside.
So thank you everyone.
I'm wandering in the desert, dragging my feet through the sand.
Okay, goodbye.
Feeling lost and alone, I cry out with my outstretched hands. I'm holding on to hope, 'cause I am made of stardust, and my soul can reach beyond the stars. The deeper the valley, the higher the mountain. No distance is too far when you're holding on to hope. Sing me a sad song over and over. I'll be alright by and by. Let me be consumed in a love divine, to find where the treasure lies. I want to hear that small voice whisper to my forgotten soul. They say it's never too late to start again. What breaks your heart